My first guests today are Margaret and John Foley, and along with them today come their daughters Emma and Rachel. And Emma and Rachel's brother, the son of Margaret and John, Connor, passed away a year ago about this time, and he was only 17 years of age after a brave battle with a rare form of cancer. The Foley family have subsequently established a foundation in Connor's memory with a very specific purpose, which we're going to hear about now. I want to welcome the Foleys to Late Lunch. You're all very welcome, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. Connor was born on April 21st, 1998. Ma'am, take up the story. Your pride and joy. You had the two girls at that stage.
That's right, yeah. Two girls in the house, and everything was pink and, Barbies and all that. And then Connor came along, and we had, Thomas the Tank and Bob the Builder and blue stuff in the house and everything. And but he was a great child, and he just set. What's the word? I'm trying to find you there now. Fitted into everything,
Yeah.
Being the youngest, and he was, as time went on, he became the girls were always really good and sat there and did what they were told, but Connor would be, mischievous, and he'd hop up and he'd jump and he'd run around the place, so totally different child, what we were used to, but at the same time, a good child as well.
Emma and Rachel, did you spoil him? Do you remember when he was little?
I do, yeah. I was 6 when he was born, so I remember... I think when I was only 4 when Rachel was born, so I don't really remember that as much, but I do remember Dad bringing us up to see him the first day he was born, and we went up and we brought him a little present. I think I brought him a little blue teddy bear, and it was great to just have a little brother. I remember thinking, just holding him in my arms and just being really excited with him, and we used to just love watching him grow and everything. So great memories from when he was young.
Very special time. No, he was fine, was he, Dad, up till 4 years of age? He was healthy, normal, developed. Go on.
Yeah, he developed as a normal child. He did what normal kids do at that young age. And in fact, he walked at 10 months, and that was, I think, to get away from the girls. So he didn't crawl for very long, and he walked at 10 months. So, I mean, amazingly enough, he was fine, and he was perfect in every shape and form of the word, until one day he started limping. And we brought him to the doctor, and the doctor examined him, and he said, he could have a little bit of constipation, he said, but I should just keep an eye on it, and if you're concerned, here's a letter, bring him to the hospital. So what happened then was that we were a bit concerned because he seemed to be limping and he looked a little bit pale. So we went to Temple Street Hospital and we asked for an x-ray, and the doctors there were saying, well, look, there's no point in an x-ray. He'll get loads of x-rays in his lifetime. He said, it's constipation. Go home and give him some Dufalac and Senecot. 5 mils of Dufalac three times a day, and then finish off for Senecot in 3 days' time. So we did that, and subsequently his bowel did empty, and we felt, well, for someone that small, he can't have much more left in there. So we went back about 5 days later because we were still concerned he was still limping. And when we went back, they kind of put up a protest about getting him an ultrasound and that. But we were persistent parents at that time. We said, look, we're not leaving here till we actually get the ultrasound done. So we got the ultrasound done, and they came out and they said, well, we're glad to say it's not cancer. And we nearly hit the deck because we had no suspicions or suspect of anything.
No.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. And I says, what do you mean it's not cancer? No, you're not listening to me. He said, it's not cancer. And I says, how do you know? And he says, well, there's a small piece of hemoglobin on his kidney, he said, but he says, was he premature? And we said, no, he was full term. Had he got a difficult birth? And I says, no, it was standard birth. And he went through all these scenarios. And I said, no, everything was fine. Everything was perfect. And with that, he said, okay, sure, we'll run a few more tests. So they said, if you'd like to take a seat outside, we'll just get some blood tests and that done. So he did that, and then he admitted us into one of the emergency rooms in Temple Street. And about 4 or 5 hours later, we were sitting there, Connor was asleep on the bed, and nurses were kind of flying in and out, and they said, have the doctors talked to you? And we said, no. And they said, okay. So then, I can't remember his name, it was Professor somebody at the name, I can't remember his name at the time, back in 2002, but he walked in and he says, we're just looking for a room. And I thought that was a room to kind of admit us and stay overnight, because I said, well, look, sure, we were due to go on holidays, actually. And I said, oh, look, sure, I mean, overnight's not going to kill us. I said, wherever you need, And he said, no, he said, we'll have to do it here. So I said, what are you talking about? So next of all, he swooped around the curtain, and about 3 or 4 nurses and 2 doctors and himself was stood there, and he literally opened the file and plonked it on the actual bed table. And he said, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this, he said, but your son seems to have, we're 99% sure, neuroblastoma. Now, we hadn't got a clue what that was at the time. And my wife turned around and said, is that a leukemia? And he said, you'd be lucky if it was leukemia, is what we got told. So that was a shock and a half.
A bombshell.
A
Oh, yes.
bombshell.
Yeah.
You'd have to
Yeah,
say. And
definitely.
it was stage 4
Yeah.
with
Stage
what,
4.
a 30% survival rate?
Yeah.
Basically what happened then was they transferred immediately over to Crumlin Hospital, where they did their further tests, and within 2 days then we got the full diagnosis of stage 4 neuroblastoma with a 30% survival rate. Now, I did speak to Dr. Finn Brannock at the time, who was our consultant, and I said, 30%, so what's that? And he said, well, look, John, he says, I don't believe in percentages, he said, and in my world, you're either 100% dead or 100% cured. And that's what we got told. So we focused on the positive, and we took it, and we ran with that all the way.
Yeah.
Now, ma'am, he was a little fella, 4 years of age, and I was just reading what he went through. He had
Yes.
chemotherapy, he had a bone marrow transplant. Who did he get the transplant from?
Well, he had a stem cell transplant.
stem cell.
Stem
Yeah,
cell.
which
So
is
his own
his own
stem
His
stem
own,
cells.
his
Yeah.
own stem cells.
Get rid-
He had radiotherapy afterwards, and then 6 months Roaccutane treatment.
which
What is that?
It's basically
It's a drug.
a high dose of vitamin A, and actually kids in their teens would actually get treated with low doses of it for acne. But it's a massive dose of vitamin A, which did show signs back then that it prevented relapse. So they actually went on a course of that for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off for a 6-month period post all treatment, and he survived that and went through that, and he was fine.
And out he came the other side
yeah.
Yes.
after all this. 2 years went by, you got the all clear.
clear.
But
Yeah.
tell me about this 5-year time frame before
Yeah.
they say you're cancer free.
Yeah, well, basically what happens is once you're post-treatment, all of the end of treatment scans will be looked at, and you get a kind of a remission or a clear status. But they monitor you for about a 5-year period, and in the first year it's probably every couple of months, and then it drops back to say 4 times a year the second year, twice in the third year, once in the fourth year, and once in the fifth year. And when it comes to the 5-year, they more or less kind of give you the blessing and say, well, you've made it this far, keep doing what you're doing. Again, they won't give you any guarantee, but they will say to you that just keep doing what you're doing. Now, unfortunately with neuroblastoma, it's such I suppose a sneaky cancer in that if it comes back, it tends to come back post-treatment within an 18-month to 24-month period. And at that stage, it's usually the body is too toxic to administer any further treatments. So therefore, they can either only kind of maintain you or basically not give you treatment, because there was no kind of, I suppose, further treatment out there.
Yeah.
The body can only take so much. So in Connor's particular case, it was great that he actually got the 10 years cancer-free, because by the time the 10 years came round, we were able to treat him with new additional agents that were new to the market, number one, he hadn't had before, and some new additional treatments that he got also, both here and in the UK.
So 10 years he was in the clear. Girls, Emma, Rachel, talk to me about that time. Rachel, what about when he was over this? What do you remember? What do you remember about? Do you remember that time that your dad's talking about there when he was in hospital? Did your parents tell you how ill he was?
Well, no, my mum and dad now have been they always wanted to try and keep life as normal as possible for not even myself and Rachel, but even just for Connor. But I suppose I remember being in Crumlin around the time when they got the diagnosis, and like my mum and dad said, we were supposed to go on holidays to Lanzarote for I think a week or two, weren't we? So we were all looking forward to that, and my only real memory of it was that we were brought into a room, and mum and dad just said, look, Connor's very sick, but we're going to make him get better. So now, I was only, I think, 9 and you were about 7, and we never obviously knew what cancer was, and even as we got that bit older, I still didn't really realise the whole seriousness of it. It was only when I was maybe in my late teens, that, kind of 14, 15, mid-teens, that I kind of realised, okay, this was serious, and I realised how lucky he was to have gotten through it.
And what he went through as well.
Exactly, the extent of what he went through, because, you think back, and for myself, I think if I was to have to go through that, I don't think I could, so... it was only kind of later on. We always knew he was sick. He spent a lot of time in hospital. But we just never realised the seriousness of it all.
But at that stage.
Yeah.
And Rachel, did you spoil him? Did you know when you realised what
Oh,
he'd
yeah.
come through? Did you make the most of him?
Yeah, like he'd always get what he wanted, and like I don't know, like even though he went like for his 1-year checkups and all that, he always had a spoiled day, and it was to Smith's on the way home, and then bowling or the zoo. Like we'd always do something to get him distracted, like after seeing the doctors and all, because we always knew he'd be like he was cured, and we got back to reality and living on, and in the 10 years, like.
And did you put it to the back of your mind then? You felt, look, when you're over 2 years,
Yeah.
5 years,
Yeah.
going for 10 years, sure, it's something that
Yeah,
he's
'cause,
over now.
Like he started school then, he was late starting primary school and all that. Yeah, but like he started making friends and doing what they all did, played football, and it was just
normal
nice
life.
to see him interact with other people other than ourselves as well. And then we got to just go out more as
Do
a
things as a
family.
family,
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
there's a big change when you mentioned 10 years on from being 4 years of age. He's 14, year older as well.
Yeah.
And in 2012, April 2012, at 14 years of age, Johnny had a relapse. What signified that? How did you know what was happening?
Basically, what happened was we were planning his 14th birthday, and we got one of those big obstacle courses out the back garden, and he had about 14 or 15 friends from school over with him, and they were out playing the back garden. It was a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, and it was up this thing, down this thing. They were going on all the place, jumping off everything, like, you know. And essentially, it was the next morning that he came down, and Margaret just noticed a little kind of a wobble here on the side of his neck. And she said to me, "What's that?" And I just said, sister, they're killing each other out there yesterday. One guy's ribs nearly got broken, one guy's finger nearly got broken. So he probably got a foot or an elbow.
Boys
in
will
his
be
face.
boys.
Boys will be boys, exactly.
So we suspected nothing immediately. And with that, then Margaret got up on Monday morning, and she said, "I'm going to bring him down to the GP just to get him checked out."
Yeah,
So-
it was kind of like very
Floppy.
soft and floppy, and it was like as if fluid was there or something. And I just knew it wasn't right. It hadn't gone away.
Were you worried? Did the alarm bells
Oh yeah,
ring
yeah,
straight away. Oh yeah, no
Straight
matter
away.
what. And up to this, Connor had been very healthy all along.
Yeah.
Like going to school, he had very little time off school with no ordinary illnesses. You know, like he never was out really with the flu or the cold. He just managed to be pretty well in that sense.
In
you know.
fact, he attended school nearly 100% of the time that he was there, and they couldn't believe it because what he'd been through. There was other kids in there with common colds, common flus, belly upsets and stuff, and then wouldn't turn in.
Yeah,
so he actually got nearly full attendance for when he was
all
in
the
there.
time.
Did it take long to get to the point of this to say this is back? Did it take long from the point you go to the GP, you see the GP?
Yeah.
What happened?
We went to the GP, and by feeling and touching it, they thought maybe it might be mumps. So we had an antibiotic from, didn't we, for a week, and then it still wasn't going by the end of that week. And I was saying I think we should get on to Crumlin because he was due his annual
May.
checkup in the May. This is in the April.
Yeah.
So we just said get on to Crumlin and see can we bring it forward.
Well, in fairness,
and that's
the
what we did.
GP actually said, "John, I don't know, but I'm going to do a blood test." So she did a blood test, and she called me back on Friday evening with the blood test. And she said, "John, I'm not a haematologist, but she said, I'm not really sure, but it might be an idea to go to Crumlin with Connor's history." And I said, "Call out the blood results to me over the phone." So she did do, and his hemoglobin was about 12.1. Was nearly normal, not normal, usually about 12.5 upwards. But everything else seemed normal. They were borderline. Now, they weren't excessive, but they were borderline. So we rang Crumlin, we got speaking to the oncologist, and she said, "Can you email me in the details?" So I went down, scanned them, sent them in, and then she called back and she says, "We'll see you on Tuesday, bring him up on Tuesday." Because the point was only got 4 or 5 weeks out anyway, so she brought it forward.
Do they get to the diagnosis quickly that this is back?
They do. It took about 10 days. I mean, obviously myself and Mark were very anxious and were more or less saying, is it back? Is it back? And we were told, no, he wouldn't be back after 10 years. It's an infection. We'll treat him for the infection. But what happened was, unfortunately, that one of his biomarkers was out, and they called us back in 24 hours later. It's got it done again. It normally takes a week to come back from Beaumont, but they got it done. They fast-tracked it through Beaumont, and they got it back in 24 hours. So she called me on the Tuesday at 2:30 and said, "I need Connor in here to do a scan." And we brought him in the next day for a scan. He was on the CT scanner at about 10:30 that morning, and she came out to tell us at 12 o'clock that it was back.
Is that a bigger shock, Margaret, 10 years on, than the initial shock when he was a little lad of 4?
Yes, because like that, after the 10 years, like they were saying to us after the 5 years, like, he's home and dry as such, basically. And then on top of that, we were just getting back to life as a normal family as well, you know what I mean? And you were starting to put that behind you as such, and not to worry, but at the same time, it was always there. But as John was saying, they always would say you were over anxious parents as well, and it was a bombshell. And like that, because he was older, it was like, oh my God,
How are we going to tell him?
how are we going to get through this as well with him?
Well, how did he feel? How did he talk? Did he talk to you girls at all about this?
No, he wasn't really. He wasn't really. He knew he was sick, but he never really knew.
He never
Well,
discussed the word, we never mentioned
yeah,
the word
we
cancer.
never mentioned the
Never.
word.
No.
Yeah, we just kept that kind of on the down low. But yeah, it was a shock for all of us. 'Cause, I remember his consultant at the time saying to us when she came in, she said, "Look, you have more chance of winning the lotto," and then it coming
And this
back after
happening
10
again.
years,
Yeah.
and we still haven't won the lotto. But
Well,
so he was
it puts it in perspective in
Yeah.
terms of how unlucky he was for this
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
And then they tell you there's only a 5% survival rate from this. You had 30% when he was 4.
Yeah.
Now, but you don't work in percentages. You
No,
told
no,
me
we
that,
didn't
John.
even listen to that.
So he went through the similar
Basically,
process again, did he?
went through again, because he was the first child to relapse at that late stage, they really hadn't got a protocol to actually give him. So it was kind of they were fighting with fire and tailor-made. She was on the global database saying, like, what do I do? What do I give him? What will I try? So she gave him 3 courses of a concoction of different chemotherapy drugs. We got him back into remission again after the second and prior to starting the third. So that was great. So then she switched him to 2 new agents called irinotecan and tempomolazide, and he was on that for 6 courses. And once that was up to about October, November, we finished that then, and we ended up going to the UK, to the Royal Marsden in Surrey, to get the MIBG treatment, which again, he was actually in an isolated lead-sealed room for 15 days on his own, where we couldn't touch him, we couldn't feel him, we couldn't do anything to him. We could look through a porthole window to him, or look over a horse-drawn door, if you like. So basically, he had to remain inside that room until he came below the actual safety level to be brought out, to be brought to the scanner. And that happened around the 16th, 17th of December. And then we got the all clear, and we flew home on the 22nd of December, and we had a big party that night for Connor and ourselves. And next then, he went in through 25 sessions of radiotherapy in January and February. We got a bit of a break then, and then he went through a second bone marrow transplant. Now, the bone marrow transplant he didn't want to do because they didn't think he'd survive it. He wouldn't engraft, but we forced our arm because we said, look, it's part of the protocol, and we never forgive ourselves if we didn't do it and it comes back. I want to do everything we can, and then if it comes back, well, then we've left no stone unturned. So we forced them, and we went through the actual transplant, and then we had a 3-month window prior to them starting on the anti-GT2 and the IL-2 immunotherapy, which was flown over from Austria, and it was administered in Crumlin. He tested the new protocol of 24 hours a day for 10 days, and that was the actual fluids going into him, and then he had injections, and then he had roaccutane again post that. So it was a 32-day plan, and it started on the 7th of September, 6th or 7th of September, right through till March, 7th of March 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
That is some amount of treatments to have to go through. How was he? How was he with all this, Margaret?
Well, he never gave up. Connor always, he went along with everything, and he never complained, and he never, well, why this? Why have I had to go back? He just went along with things, and
give it to me, get on with it.
Yeah,
that was him, was it? Yeah, just get on with it.
Yeah, it was just get on with it, and even with the nurses, what's keeping you there? Hurry up! I want to watch my program. And once he was home by a certain time to see his favourite programs on TV, he didn't care, And
once he had the laptop in front of him, keeping him busy, he
Yeah.
didn't mind people pricking at him with needles.
He was that type of guy.
He was very resilient as a child.
The sad thing is that was 10 years on. You used all the cutting edge technology that was there. You did everything you could but sadly it returned.
Yeah.
After 8 months.
Basically, his end of treatment scans in March 15 was clear. His 6 months was clear, and then he was due his 9th month in Christmas week, but again, a little bump appeared on his shoulder, and we thought it was cellulitis, and they were treating him for an infection again. But straight away, we suspected something was back. And again, we kind of argued with the doctors for about 10 days, and then he agreed that yes, it was back. He was back in again for a scan. Today we went in, actually, we got a scan that day. We weren't waiting. I said, I'm not leaving here till we get a scan. We got a scan. He confirmed it that day, unfortunately. And then he more or less told us to take him home, that there was nothing left for us to do. But we again persisted, and we pushed the boundaries. We spoke to Professor Andy Pearson's in the UK. We spoke to Cormac. We got them to liaise together. Went in for family meeting on the 28th of November, and we started oral chemo. We started at home. We took it home with us, and we started on the Saturday, and we administered it at home Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we were back in the hospital on Wednesday for a checkup. And the month of December was okay, a few blood and platelets, but he didn't need any blood and platelets all the way up to March, and then things started.
And it looks as if things were turning around again for a third time and such. But then, just in the April, another the tumour started growing again.
Yeah. So we had to get emergency radiotherapy and a few other bits and pieces. And then there was no treatments left because we'd gone down every road. But fortunately enough, we'd sent his tumour away to get DNA analysed, which it did come back, and it came back and said that it had a pathway, not specific to neuroblastoma, but it had a specific pathway, that there was a new drug just that's been launched in the US. In October 14, and it had actually just been given the dispense rights on April 15. So we contacted them, I contacted them, Crumlin contacted them, and together we actually got the drug flown over from Long Island on compassionate grounds, and we got the first course into him, and then you take it for 21 days and you stop for 7 weeks, and then you start again. And it was during that stop period that everything, all his body markers went everywhere. The cancer got really, really aggressive, and basically it kind of metastasized in the liver over the weekend, and his liver doubled in size, and they more or less said he had 24 hours to live. But he fought again, and we got him all the way from the 12th of June to the 3rd of July before he slipped away peacefully at home.
Remarkable lad, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
In
He always
what he
defied
did.
the doctors. He always went against the odds.
Did he
as such.
talk to you ever? I know you never mentioned it, girls, with him. Did he talk to yourselves, mum or dad?
The only time he talked to me was at 9 o'clock on the Thursday night, and I brought him to the bathroom. And as he was getting up off, at that stage he was a little bit weak, so I had to hold him. And normally I'd just lead forward. He'd put his arms behind my head and I'd lift him up like that. So he kind of done that to me, and I thought he wanted to get up. And he threw his arms around me and he pulled me in. And he said, "Dad," and I says, "What?" And he said, "Am I dying?" And I said, "No, you're not. Get up there and I'll wipe your bum." And we got him up and I put him back in the bed. We had the bed downstairs in the sitting room. And it was 9 o'clock next morning where he took a bit of a turn.
Yeah.
And we revived him, and we got him back in the bed with the help of the doctors and the ambulance that came. And he was peaceful, and he just slipped away watching his favourite movie, Madagascar. And to the theme song going up, the last line of the song was, "I want to move it," and he
His
slipped away.
favourite song as well.
So you never ever gave up that glimmer of hope to the very end to him.
No,
Isn't that just
We were there
something?
we were there for every second of it. Like we were just did not leave him for 1 minute.
I think you're the most remarkable people I've ever met for a family. I have to say that with what you've done for him in his time and how you've kept going, because it is just pure devastation. I know to lose, I haven't, but I know from other people close to me to lose a child, what it is, and your youngest and your only son as well. But look, beyond this mortal existence, there are a lot of other people who find themselves in the same boat as yourselves this very day. Now, you want to keep this guy's memory going. What's this foundation all about, John?
Basically, essentially, Conor had broken down barriers over the last 3 years of his life with actually testing new protocols and basically doing new things for medical science. So in order to keep that alive, we decided to set up, he didn't die in vain, so we've set up the actual foundation, the Conor Foley Neuroblastoma Cancer Research Foundation, in his name. And basically what it is, it's the fight to get sustained and funding into neuroblastoma research in Ireland that can link up with outreach programs around the world and try and come up with a cure. There's a cure soon, not in the next 36 months, but definitely over the next 5 to 10 years, there's definitely a cure, because with all the geno stuff that's come on now, there's massive advances in the last 12 months in neuroblastoma where it had been nothing for 20 years. So there's something going to happen, and we just need funding to get out there to do that and pay the researcher, get the researching done with sustained funding. Whether it's government support, we'll do funding, but we're not going to be able to do it alone. So we will need, I suppose, the parents of other neuroblastoma kids out there to support us as well with their fundraising. We've already met the Irish Cancer Society, the HRB, we've already met Cancer Trials Ireland, formerly ICORC, and they're all backing us and supporting us. And basically, they will try and support us with as much funding as they can. But the thing is that we need to get sustained funding into this research, and we also have a meeting with Simon Harris, new Minister of Health, in the coming weeks.
So the cure is what you are after. Not care, not anything like that. It's to find a cure for this and tackle it head on. Ireland, in conjunction with Europe and the world, coordinating this to have it done in your son's memory. You launched the foundation, I believe, a wonderful night at the Knightsbrook in Trim on Saturday last, with your Beyond the Sea blue tie ball. What's next up? What are you going to do now?
Well, we basically get that off. We got the foundation launch. We've got our Charity Regulation Authority status number on Friday, which was at the 11th hour. And now we'll be looking to revenue to get the actual tax-free status. But obviously it's going to be funding. We've got people knocking on the door saying we'll do a race night for you, do a pub quiz night for you. There's people saying to do a golf classic for us. There's one of our best friends.
Or the
Helen Back and the marathon.
Yes.
And then there's people
like
saying that they're putting on a drama group, children's drama group beside us, have said they're actually putting on a show for us in August as well. So it's going to be, it's small, but it's going to get bigger as we go through it.
We've only just started, basically.
Of course you have.
And we've no intention of ending up soon. We want to keep going.
This is not a fad.
It's a
this is not a
long-term
2-year
thing.
fad. This is for life. It was Conor's wish. We said it to him.
Yeah.
No, just we've had great support already since we've started up. We had the official launch night on Saturday just gone, but even before that we had people raising money for us as well, so we've had great support from everyone.
Conor's school, like everyone knows about Conor in Trim, so we just need to get it out past Trim. And
he was such an
let
infectious
everyone know.
person. You met him once and you were infected by him.
Of course. And you know what? I feel I've met him through all of you, to be honest with you here today, and I can say no more than that. I have to leave it there. Okay. If people want to find out more information, how do they check you out?
It's on the conorfoley.ie website.
As simple as that. And it's a wonderful website. I say that to you folks. Just a comment here before we go. You are truly wonderful people. And remember this. he's only gone down the road a little bit before you. You will meet again. Lovely comment there from a listener to you all this afternoon.
Thanks
I
very
have
much.
to leave it there. The Conor Foley Foundation. Remember it, folks, conorfoley.ie. But to all the Foleys, Margaret, John, Emma and Rachel, thank you so much for joining me in Late Lunch.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank
Thank you.